Today's video is literally everything but the kitchen sink nails. Stephanie is gonna use it all right now.
Okay, for this next nail demo, I'm going to show you guys how to recreate a set that I had actually done on myself that was inspired by Young Nails senior mentor MJ De La Cruz, Melissa. She is like the queen of dimensional art, and she had been wearing these stone-like looking nails for the last couple months, and I was just in love with them, so I wanted to recreate them. So let's get into it. Okay, let's get started with the products we're going to use. First, we will sculpt my extension using Cover Pink. I'm going to get into some art using ManiQ Black 101 and ManiQ Canvas 101. Adding some dimension, I'm going to be using the Young Nails Gold Foil, In Love Confettis, the new Glitter Resolution, and our newest Mylar Piece. All is going to be encapsulated in Synergy Gel Build Pink. Let's get into the demo. Okay, so we're going to get started as always by pushing back my cuticles, doing so with my magic wand. It's not a lot of work, just a quick little pass and an assessment of the nail. I'm going to grab our new Zebra sanding band, and I'm going to turn my electric file on to about 5,000 RPMs. I'm going to just tuck right up into that cuticle area, make sure I get everything out of the cuticle and the growth channels, and then just come down through the rest of the nail, removing the shine from the surface. I'm going to grab my swipe and a clean manicure brush. And I'm going to go ahead and just brush down. Remember, we always brush down so that we're knocking all of that dust and filing debris out of the growth channels, so we have a nice clean dehydrated surface for the application. I'm going to grab my protein bond. I'm going to apply that to the surface of the nail from cuticle to free edge and allow that to set up, go through the other 9 fingers, and come back again for a second coat. We always say 1 coat is necessary and 2 coats for problem lifters. I don't ever want to find out a client is a problem lifter, so for insurance, I would rather just do 2 coats every time. I'm going to take my form and go ahead and remove the centerpiece, pop that right on the back, and just pre-pinch it a little bit. I am making a fairly long stiletto, so I want to make sure that I have that all the way out to the edge, and that looks nice and straight. Kind of tweak it a little bit. I do have a crooked finger, so there's some adjustments. So now the reason that I'm going to use Cover Pink to build my extension is because I want to get a really tight pinch. So rather than sculpting the entire nail out of gel, I'm going to go ahead and start my base using an acrylic, and then I'm going to encapsulate using gel. So I'm going to get some liquid, and I'm going to start by picking up a pearl just to build the free edge with. And I am going to be working fairly thin because I have a lot of little jewels and that kind of thing that I'm going to be sticking inside the nail. We have mylar, we have foil, so I'm really going to try to focus on keeping this nail as thin as I can while I'm building the extension and starting with the artwork, so that I have plenty of room to encapsulate all of that stuff later on. So I'm just using the body of my brush to kind of push that around, make sure I'm connected to the free edge on both sides, and again keeping in mind that I want it to be really thin. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grab a second pearl and just lay that down on the body of the nail to get everything all nice and even. And I'm working very wet because I am trying to keep everything thin, so I'm kind of just going to brush this down over the extension. I'm not worried about getting any kind of structure or strength. I know it's very thin towards the apex. It's barely even connected on the free edge. That's okay because a lot of the structure is going to come from the gel when we're encapsulating it later. Grab just a little piece to pop in over here on that side. Okay, now I'm going to give this just a minute to set up and we'll get into the design. Okay, so the reason that I wanted to sculpt the extension using the cover pink was you have a little bit more of an ability to pinch your nice C curve when you're using an acrylic rather than when using gel. So it's been about 3 or 4 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and take my magic wand and place that right about the center of the nail, kind of near my free edge, and I'm just going to go ahead and let that kind of pinch itself, so I'm going to get a really, really nice curve. Okay, so now that I've pinched in my nice tight C curve, I'm actually going to go ahead and remove this form carefully because again, we don't have a lot of product on here, so it is very fragile. You don't want to go ahead and just rip that off. You'll break off your free edge and have to kind of start over. All right, so now you can see it's actually a very, very thin extension. I do have a little bit of, overhang here, but that's fine. But as far as the structure of the nail itself, it's extremely thin. And that's what I want because again, we have a lot of product that we're putting in these. I like to call these like kitchen sink nails because it's everything with the kitchen sink. So I'm gonna go ahead and just buff the surface a little bit. That way I'm working on an even kind of smooth surface, and the structure and shape, we'll get all of that later on once I get my electric file out. Since I did buff and made, some dust on the surface of the nail, I'm gonna take my swipe on a clean manicure brush and get rid of all of that dust and go ahead and reapply my protein bond. Protein bond is just basically always added insurance. I know that if I am applying protein bond, I'm not going to get any chipping. I'm not going to have any issues with adhesion from a full enhancement like acrylic or gel to gel polish. So I'm going to grab my 2 gel polish colors, ManiQ Black 101 and Canvas 101. I'm also going to grab a tile. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with canvas since it is the lighter of the colors. I'm going to try to kind of put more of the canvas back towards the cuticle area. For me, this just makes sense because then I won't, later on when I'm filing, I'm not gonna run into the black, and if I did file down a bit too far, it's gonna be less noticeable with the lighter color back near the cuticle. So that's just kind of my thought process on that. And no real rhyme or reason to this. I'm kind of just applying wherever I see fit. And now I'm gonna take a little bit of my black and just kind of run that through. I'm not worried about the colors kind of blending in together because that's a little bit of the look that I'm going for. I'm going to wipe off my brush, and I'm actually going to pick up some of that black and lay it down on my tile and grab a striper brush and just kind of use this to start marbling those colors together a little bit, kind of adding some dimension, a little bit of layers to it, just getting a cool kind of almost stone-like look. And canvas has a little bit of a gold shimmer to it just on its own. It has a little bit of that kind of pearlescence. So it gives a really pretty shimmer to the black, as well as we're gonna start adding some glitter to it. Now, once you're happy with the base that you have going, we're gonna go ahead and get this in the light for 30 seconds. Okay, so we're out of the light, and ManiQ, like most gel polish, has a tacky dispersion layer. So I'm actually gonna take that resolution glitter and a clean makeup brush and just go ahead and start dabbing some of that into the design. In most places, I'm not really worried about getting a full coverage of it, but just kind of random wherever I like it. Definitely want to get some back towards the cuticle area again, just because that's a lighter color, and if I do file into it later, it will be a little more camouflaged. And once you like the look of it, just kind of clean up any excess that's hanging out. And now what I'm gonna do is grab ManiQ Top Coat, and all I'm trying to do is seal in that glitter that I just laid down and give myself a little bit more of a dispersion layer to work with in my next coat. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab my light and get in the light for another 30 seconds. And now I'm gonna take some of that gold foil. I like to take out some and just kind of break that up so I can get some smaller pieces. This stuff is pretty thin, so it lays down very easily. I'm gonna grab a gel brush and just go ahead and pick up some of those pieces, and I'm just gonna stick that right into the tacky dispersion layer from the ManiQ Gel Polish Top Coat. So again, not really overthinking it, kind of just placing these down at random. Also keeping in mind that we are gonna have the most amount of product right here in the stress area. So putting a big piece of foil back at the cuticle or right at the tip isn't usually something that I try to do, just because I know that right here in the center I'm gonna have a lot of product to encapsulate it, so I know I'm not gonna be filing any of that out later on in my design. Okay, so once I like the way the foil is looking, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my Build Pink Synergy Gel, and I'm just gonna take a thin layer. Again, I'm not trying to build any strength right now, we'll get to that later. What I'm doing right now is making sure I've encapsulated that gold foil so it's gonna stick. I'm also actually gonna use this as a base for some of those In Love confettis and mylars. When it comes to dimensional art, we're really trying to just work in very thin layers, and that's what's gonna give it that really beautiful kind of dimensional look, rather than just having a topical design or one coat of glitter, which is also beautiful, but for this look we're just going for something with a little more depth. So what I did with my In Love confettis was I went ahead and took my straight edge toenail clippers and just kind of cut off little pieces. What this is gonna do is give you little kind of like shards. I wasn't really looking for a heart design, but I like the iridescence that they have. So what I have now is little pieces that I can use and place into the nail wherever I see fit. So again, our Build Pink is wet, it has not yet been cured. So I'm gonna take my gel brush and start picking up some of those little pieces. And these ones are a bit thicker than the gold foil, so this is kind of what I was saying earlier, where I really try to be mindful of where I'm gonna be placing these larger pieces versus some of the smaller ones that I know I can probably get away with. So these large kind of triangle pieces, I usually try to focus those more near the stress area because I know I'll have enough gel to encapsulate it later on. Whereas some of these smaller little pieces, those ones usually I try to aim more towards the like nail bed or towards the tip. Okay, so again, once you're liking the look, I'm gonna go ahead and pop this in the light for about 30-45 seconds. If I was in salon, I would just be working back and forth hand to hand. But since I'm just doing the one, I'm gonna go ahead and cure it for about 30 to 45 seconds and then go into another layer. Okay, we're gonna come out of the light. And I'm going to take my Build Pink again. And just a very thin layer. I'm really not even picking up a large amount on my brush. I'm just picking up enough to kind of brush over some of those pieces, and that's gonna start to kind of seal them in, as well as give me another layer for me to lay some of that mylar down. Grab my piece mylar, and I'm gonna use my gel brush just to set some of this down. I'm gonna go ahead and pour some out here on my tile. I'm just gonna pick up some of these pieces and kind of let them do their thing. This is more of an abstract design. It doesn't have to be specific. The nails don't all have to match. This is more of an accent nail. So it's really just kind of about getting that dimensional look and bling. Okay, I like the look of that, so I'm gonna go ahead and get in the light for another 30 to 45 seconds. I'm gonna go ahead and grab that Build Pink again, and we're gonna start to encapsulate the nail to go ahead and get all of our strength and structure. The reason I chose Build Pink was actually a tip from Melissa. She uses Build Pink for all of her encapsulated art, and it adds a beautiful twinkle and effect, and it just gives even more dimension to it. It's the same consistency as our Synergy Gel Build, it just has a slight pink tint. Okay, so since this is a longer nail, I'm probably gonna have to do this in a couple different beads. So I'm just gonna pick up a nice healthy amount at first, and go ahead and set that down towards the cuticle area. Not on top of, because I don't want to flood or overwhelm the cuticle. And as you can see, I'm just going to start pillowing the product right up to it so I can be sure that I'm as close as I can get without touching. And then I'm just going to start floating the gel down the nail, trying to be sure that I've really encapsulated any of those large pieces that I had laid down at first, and just kind of letting it float and do its own thing. So with this first pearl, I really only got to about halfway down the nail. So instead of trying to grab another and overwhelm myself and maybe start to kind of lose control of it, I'm just gonna pop this in the light for a quick 10-15 seconds just to freeze it into place. And then I'm gonna grab another bead of gel and go ahead and add it to the rest of the nail. Okay. I'm gonna come back out of the light, grab my Build Pink one more time. And I'm gonna do the exact same thing. Just this time I'm gonna place my gel right here in the center towards my apex where I was kind of lacking in the first place. And again, I'm just kind of angling my finger down and letting gravity kind of do the work for me. Most of the shape is already there from the extension we created in the beginning with acrylic. So I'm kind of just guiding and letting the gel flow and do its thing. It's also going to start slipping and sliding into some of those grooves from the foils and the mylars that we've placed. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get back in the light for another 30 seconds. If I was working in salon, I would be going back and forth hand to hand or a couple fingers at a time. So you're never wasting time by freezing while you're working with gel. You're just kind of always in motion. Okay, I'm going to come out of the light. And the reason I only did a 30-second cure that time around was I wanted to get outside of the light after it's been flash cured and be able to take a look right here at this apex, make sure that I have enough product so that I know I'm not going to snap that off in the 2 weeks that I have these on. So this does look a little low. I think I'm just going to add one little bead of gel right here in the center just to be sure that I'm not going to file any of the product away when I electric file. So I'm just gonna set that down right in the center. And again, just kind of let it flow and do its thing. I really don't need a lot. I'm just kind of adding this as an insurance, I guess, so that I know that I'm not making too thin of an extension that's gonna snap. So just kind of feathering that down, letting it flow, angling my finger down so the gel can kind of flow. And I'm gonna get in the light for a final cure of 60 seconds. All right, I'm gonna come out of the light, grab my swipe and a lint-free nail wipe, get rid of that tacky dispersion layer. I'm gonna go ahead and file this into shape and we'll get back to you with the top coat and final look. Okay, so we have shaped, filed, finished filed with our 150 grit file. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my protein bond and apply from cuticle to free edge. So the reason that we use protein bond before applying top coat is to prevent any chipping or peeling. It may not always be 1000% necessary, but again, I don't want to have to worry about a repair in between time on my clients. So if I can add that insurance knowing that my top coat is not going to chip, I'm going to do so. Make sure that finish has a nice, healthy, even amount from cuticle to free edge. And I'm gonna go ahead and get this in the light, cure it out for a full 60 seconds, and we'll get back to you guys with the final look.